John.
November 25th, 2019 meeting. Could I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ankerman? Here. Trustee Grenier?
Here.
Trustee Marquis?
Here.
Trustee Meyer?
Here.
And President O'Hara.
Thank you. Everyone stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have consideration of the minutes of November 11, 2019 Village Board meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Marquis, and a second, please.
Second.
A second by Ms. Ankerman. Do I have any changes, additions, corrections? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. At this point, Village President and Board of Trustees allows 15 minutes during this time for individuals who would like the opportunity to address the Village Board on any matter not listed on the agenda. And each person addressing the Village Board of Trustees will limit their comments to a maximum of 5 minutes, okay? So do I have anyone that would like to speak? Sir, come on up. And then the next gentleman after him.
Madam President and members of the Village Board, good evening and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As a courtesy to you and the agenda you have before you, I'll keep my comments very brief. My name is Brad Anderson and I reside at 511 East Prospect Avenue. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owners of the property located at 120 East Scranton. And they're here tonight, and I'm also here on behalf of the contract purchasers of the site, Peter Whitmer and Todd Altunian. Last week at the regularly scheduled meeting of the PCZBA, Peter Whitmer and I presented preliminary plans for the development of 120 Scranton Avenue. The stated purpose of our presentation was to explain our intentions for the vacant site and solicit feedback both from the neighbors and from the PCZBA. After our presentation, several neighbors spoke, and we appreciate it. We want this development, if accepted, to be well received by both the neighbors and the village, everyone in the village, while also accomplishing the long-range plans for the central business district. We then asked for comments from the PCZBA. The PCZBA seemed to fall short of discussing the entire plan. A couple of the members stated that the fate of Scranton Avenue had already been decided by this board. The only reason I'm really here tonight is to find direction from the board, as we thought we were following the process as described to us. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any question you may have.
Thank you. All right, I think we need to answer your question first of all. I did watch the meeting in its entirety. And I am truly respectful of our PCCBA. They do a very, very good job. And they are an independent body. But I think there was a slight misconception there. One of the things is government does not stand still. And if a project comes to the village and follows the process, that project has a right to be heard, regardless of whether somebody may like it or not like it, and without prejudging anything. Because if you don't, government then stands still. So I believe that the PCZBA needs to understand that what held true perhaps 3 years ago may or may not hold true 3 years hence. But they should judge it on its own merits and give you feedback on its merits, independent of whatever they think the village board may or may not do. Do I have any other board members that want to weigh in on that?
I'm in full agreement with President O'Hara, and I would recommend that we take this back to the PCZBA and direct them to consider it. Everything deserves a hearing. We have a process, and we should follow that process.
Anybody else talking? Anybody else?
I want to know what the PCZBA thinks about this project.
Okay.
That will help me.
Anybody else? Okay, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Sir?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lee Nysted. I live at 131 East North Avenue. I'm a 40-year resident of this village, and I submitted to you some opening comments that I was going to make this evening, and I don't have to do that. And I very much appreciate what you just told us, and I look forward to whatever presentation and whatever plans and drawings and asked and answered type topics we get to see at their petition for a zoning change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? All right, hearing none. We also can set the order of the meeting, and I understand that we have people here from number 15 and number 17. So if I have a motion that we can move up the agenda, numbers 15 and number 17.
So moved.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Mr. Meyer, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Ms.
Okay,
Markey.
Ms. Markey. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we will do number 15 on that, which is an ordinance granting a special use permit to the Animal Hospital of Westlake Forest to operate an animal hospital in the Village L1 Light Industry Zoning District, which is 999 Sherwood Drive. This is first reading approval, which is a voice vote. They have requested a waive of second reading and approval, which would call for a roll call votes, 2/3 majority required to waive second reading. On October 24th, 2019, the Village of Lake Bluff received a zoning relief application from the Animal Hospital of Westlake Forest applicant to allow an animal hospital to operate within the north building located at 999 Sherwood Drive in the L1 Light Industry District. This is commonly known as the Smedbo property. At the PCZBA's November 20th meeting, the Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals opened a public hearing concerning the requested special use permit. At the conclusion of the hearing, the PCZBA unanimously recommended the village board grant the requested special use permit subject to 2 special conditions. Trash enclosure of the zoning regulations require that areas utilized for garbage, trash, or refuge disposal, and all of the containers therefore, shall be screened at all times in such manner as approved by the Architectural Board of Review. No such enclosure is present on the property today. The condition requires the applicant to provide one prior to commencing the use. No outdoor animal activities. Consistent with the special use permit for Forest Bluff Animal Hospital, the applicant shall not install or maintain kennels, runs, or other facilities for animals on the exterior of the building on the subject property. The applicant has requested the board waive second reading to allow them to finalize their lease agreement with the property owner. Do I have a motion, or does anyone, first of all, have any questions here?
I'd just like to say that this is my vet. I don't know if I need to disclose that or not.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that needs to be disclosed,
I
but
think he's
Okay.
okay. All righty. Anybody else have a question or comment? All right, hearing none, let's do on the first approval,
Need a
please.
motion and
I'm
Okay.
just getting to
Okay.
that. Thank you. Okay, all right. Do I have a motion on first reading for this, please?
so moved.
So
Second.
moved by Ms. Anger, and second by Mr. Grenier.
Mr. Meyer.
Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, I'm so sorry. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, for the request for waiver of the second reading, which would be a roll call vote, do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, do I have a second?
Second.
And second by Mr. Grenier. Roll call, please.
May I make a question?
Oh, certainly.
Ask a question first. I'm really reluctant to just waive second reading without really understanding a little bit more behind
Okay.
the reasoning, the why, because, I mean, every business wants to put it in fast forward and open sooner or get their work underway sooner, but there's a process and there's a reason behind it. It gives, the public or neighboring businesses an opportunity to voice concerns. And so I might want to ask Drew if any concerns have been raised or if there are other details that perhaps should be
The
shared.
owners could share.
Yeah.
Would you like to come up to the podium, please, and give us your request why you would like to waive second?
And I would add before they introduce themselves, but at the public hearing on Wednesday of last week, there was no comments provided on the application by anybody from the audience, any neighbors, and notice was sent out. So.
Good, thank you.
My name's Dave McKenna.
I'm Brian DeFuscia.
We're the owners of the Animal Hospital Westlake Forest. The lease that we're getting ready to sign, we're looking at some parking issues on the property, and we want to get all our ducks in a row, but they're wanting us to sign the lease with no contingencies by the end of December. So we're just trying to get everything, this part of it, down so that we can move to the next stage sooner.
Yeah, our contingencies, there's a number of contingencies on to get the lease signed, this obviously being the most important one. And so it's kind of the domino effect. If we can get this done, we can get a couple other things done, hopefully by the end of their deadline, to try and make sure this all goes through. We also understood that there's a business, the Forest Bluff as well, a similar type business in the same area that was also granted special use. So we thought that might also allow the board to expedite the approval.
Okay, answer. Okay,
Good to know.
doctors, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and welcome to Lake Bluff.
Thank you.
I'll just make a comment. I mean, to your point, another reason to do a second reading is it also, in theory, gives a chance for constituents to call us up and express some concerns before we make a final decision. However, there's also balancing the likelihood that there's going to be objection, I think, is extremely low in this case. So.
Okay, all right, so we'll do a roll call, please.
Trustee Yankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Marquis.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jen. Thank you very much. Bravo. Okay. We have item number 17, which is an, excuse me, an ordinance granting a special use permit for a restaurant, Bunk, 79 Scranton Avenue and also at 28 East Center Avenue. On October 25th, 2019, the Village of Lake Bluff received a zoning relief application from Center Avenue Partners and Rev Cycles, LLC, to allow the operation of an eating place without drive-in or drive-through facilities within the tenant space addressed as 79 Scranton Avenue. The use would be shared with an existing bicycle shop within the tenant space. The applicant's dining concept, Bonk, and I'm going to have to ask what that means.
It's a cycling term. When you're gone for a long ride, you're
Yeah.
out of energy, you bonk.
You're bonked?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Includes soup, salads, and other fast casual cuisine. The applicant proposes to occupy the existing bicycle shop with no exterior changes except a new sign, subject to review by the Architectural Board of Review. In the interior, the applicant proposes to create a new food preparation area, sit-down dining area for 22 customers, and 2 ADA accessible bathrooms as required by the Illinois Plumbing Code for a restaurant of this type. Staff understands that some bicycle shop merchandise would remain on the first floor and that storage and repair would move into the basement. Food would be prepared off-site at the operator's, John DeRocher's, existing commissary at Innovasi Restaurant located in the same building and brought to the restaurant for final preparation and sale. At the PCZBA's November 20th meeting, the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals opened a public hearing concerning the requested special use permit. At the hearing, considerable discussion occurred regarding parking supply and demand in the CBD, employee parking within the CBD at the expense of CBD customers, and the village's enforcement of parking regulations. At the conclusion of the hearing, the PCZBA recommended 5-1 that the village board grant the requested special use permit subject to various special conditions. The dissenting member expressed concern that granting the special use permit would exacerbate existing parking problems in the CBD. The recommendation included the following conditions. The applicant would not be allowed to establish a commercial kitchen on site. The applicant would not be allowed to provide seating for more than 22 customers on site. Either the bicycle shop or any other permitted use except a food store must continue to operate in the same space. The restaurant cannot become the exclusive tenant of the space. Consistent with other CBD restaurants, the employees of the restaurant will be required to park at the train station using an annual permit. Hours of operation will be consistent with CBD restaurants. The restaurant would not be allowed to operate beyond 10 p.m. at night. This condition may be amended by the village board by resolution without a subsequent application. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ankerman. Any comments or questions or anything by the trustees? You've been bonked out, okay. All righty, okay. This is a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, okay. All right, we'll go back to,
Sorry, you do, I'm sorry, another person is here.
yes. Which number is that? 16. Okay, so we have here, item number 16, which is ordinance granting a variation from the villages.
Need a motion to
Oh, I'm sorry, we already did the other two, and I did not do on this one. That's what you meant by that. I'm so sorry.
Move to take 16 out of order.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Meyer, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Grenier, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're legal. An ordinance granting a variation from the village's minimum side yard setback and daylight plane regulations for 600 East Prospect Avenue, first reading. On October 25th, 2019, the Village of Lake Bluff received a zoning variance application from Catherine Denkla for two variations necessary to complete a partial demolition, renovation, and expansion of the residence located at 600 East Prospect Avenue, as well as complete demolition of an attached garage and other improvements. A 1.66-foot variation, which is 33%, from the minimum side yard setback restrictions set forth in Section 10-5G-2B of the zoning regulations, and an 8.83-foot variation, which is 73.6%, from the daylight plane height restrictions set forth in Section 10-5-5 of the zoning regulations. At the Historic Preservation Commission's November 13 meeting, the commission conducted its significant demolition review of the proposed work and unanimously voted to conclude its review. Chairman Steve Kraus asked the commission to express his views on the requested relief given the preservation considerations. Each commissioner expressed their support for the proposed work and the pending application for zoning relief. At the PCZBA's November 20th meeting, the Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals opened a public hearing concerning the variations and received written and verbal testimony from 4 nearby property owners. Following a considerable discussion, 4 members of the PCZBA voted to recommend approval of the variations, with 1 voting nay and 1 abstaining. The recommendation was made with the understanding that the village would enforce its ordinary drainage and tree protection requirements, both issues raised during the hearing. The members not voting in favor expressed concern with allowing additional construction to occur so close to a neighboring property line. Following the meeting, staff was approached by an adjacent property owner who reiterated a prior request that as a part of the project, the applicant install 2 air conditioner condensers in an existing non-conforming side yard location near their common lot line, rather than relocate the condensers to a conforming location that would be more visible from the adjacent owner's property. The applicant has consented to this requested change, and the applicant's architect has prepared a supplemental plan to show the location of the condensers. Staff has prepared an alternate version of the variation ordinance that would grant this modification. Do I have a motion, please, for this?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier, and a second.
Second.
And second by Mr. Meyer. Questions and comments from?
Kathy, I should have said earlier, I work for the architect who put forth this plan, so I just wanted to recuse myself
Okay.
from the discussion. So
Are-
I'll just take a little walk and come back.
Bye.
She does that a lot.
It's life in a small town. Okay. All righty, okay. Any questions here?
So basically what we have is they agree to, both affected property owners agree to relocate these air conditioners.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good.
all right. So that's good. Okay. And preservation of the house is also good.
Yeah.
That, is good. I'm pleased to see that. Any other questions or comments? This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Is 3 enough for us to pass this?
Voice vote? On a voice vote?
on first reading it is.
On the first read, but does the president need to
Do I need
vote?
to, no.
Okay, all right,
You're
thanks.
okay. All right, good enough. All right, now we can go back, I think, to the regular agenda. All righty, we have the village finance report, the warrant report for November 16th through 30th, which the originally reported expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $90,962.74 for November 30th were amended to include $182,575.50 for the final portion of the debt service payment on 2011 bonds, for total expenditures of $273,550.24. Do I have a motion to
So-
approve?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
And a second by Ms. Markey. Any questions or comments to our treasurer? Finance director, anybody? All righty, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Grenier,
Aye.
trustee Marquis,
Aye.
trustee Meyer,
Aye.
trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Okay, and we have the finance report. I'll leave it to the finance director to explain that.
Sure, sorry.
That's okay.
Sales tax revenue on a cash basis for FY '20 through August is $1,185,567, $68,327, or 6.1% greater than the same reporting period for FY '19. Home rule sales tax revenue on a cash basis for FY '20 through August is $345,765, or 5.1% greater than the same reporting period for FY 2019, with annual administrative fees totaling $5,253. Building permit revenue for FY '20 to date is $220,310, or $38,090 greater than the last fiscal year for the same period, and the May through October fiscal year '20 expenditures of $4,663,776 are $31,252 less than the expenditures for the same period of FY '19. Current expenditures are consistent with or less than budget.
Do I have a motion, please, to accept the report?
I thought we already did.
We did for the, did we do that? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Okay. Any questions and things for the finance
I
director?
don't think we had a
I
motion
I
on this
don't think
one.
we did. We did for the warrant report.
It's the warrant report, that's right.
Okay. All right, so do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Markey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ankerman. Now, are there any questions and things for the finance director? Okay. Hearing none. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you very much. All right, we are now going to the village administrator's report.
I have no report this evening.
Okay, wow. Village attorney's report.
Likewise, no report.
Oh, am I surprised? Village president's report. It's with great sadness and regret, though I do understand that Mr. Grenier will be leaving the board after the December 10th board meeting, relocating to their old family home back in California.
Correct.
Right. You will be greatly missed, okay? Your years on the school board, your years here have been great. We'll save all the flowers and la-di-das until December 10th. I am requesting the board approve Mark Dewart, who just has recently retired as trustee, I will be requesting that to have him come in and finish the remainder of Eric's term. He is fully up to date with everything that's going on and whatnot, and so it would be an easy transition, though we are seriously sorry to see you go. Okay.
Bittersweet.
And that is my report, with the exception of it's fast approaching Thanksgiving. And soon then the other holidays will all be a rush upon us. And hopefully that everyone will have a very happy and thankful Thanksgiving. We do have a lot to be thankful for.
And I thought you were going to mention It's a Wonderful Life, but
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am going to mention, that's right, because we won't be meeting until afterwards, and that is the weekend of December 7th and 8th. It's a Wonderful Life in Lake Bluff. We are having a bunch of activities. The museum is having Santa, as he usually does, so it's a great photo op with Santa, meet Santa. The library, I understand, is doing a series of activities and things. The bank will be having carriage rides around town. We will be having the buckthorn sing, and that will also inaugurate the flipping of the switch and start the actual holiday with the spheres that will be lit and the tree for the holiday season. And then on that Sunday, following it, the museum will be doing their annual Christmas house tour. They have 4 lovely homes, I think, on that tour. So thank you, I needed to be reminded about that. All right, so number 10 is acceptance of the correspondence. All correspondence was delivered to the Village Board of Trustees, and the information reports November 7th and November 15th. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ankerman. And
Second.
a second. Second by Mr. Meyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All righty, we now have a public hearing regarding the 2019 property tax levy. The Village of Lake Bluff, in keeping with past practice, will conduct a public hearing on the proposed year 2019 property tax levy. Finance Director O'Connell will present information on the Finance Committee's tax levy recommendation, and the hearing notice was published in the Lake Forester on November 14, 2019, and the village's website on November 18th. Okay, we'll let you open the hearing. Excuse me.
And apologize in advance for my congestion, sorry.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the time to present some information on the 2019 property tax levy. This levy presentation is for the property tax bills that will be sent to property owners in May of 2020. So when Illinois became a state in 1818, the Constitution contained a provision for taxing property in direct proportion to the value. From 1818 to 1930, amendments to the Constitution provided the state with various powers and authorities concerning property tax. The Revenue Act of 1872 gave Illinois final authority for setting valuations, and the last time the state levied real estate taxes was in 1930. Since then, property taxes have been levied at the local level. In order to collect a property tax, government agencies in the state of Illinois are required to establish a tax levy, and the tax levy is a projection of the monies the government agency obtains through the annual property tax. Village boards adopt a property tax levy by ordinance and file the ordinance with the county clerk by the last Tuesday in December. So, for the levy process, as a home rule community, the village is not subject to the Property Tax Limitation Act, otherwise known as PTEL. However, a resolution passed in 2005 committing the village abide the PTEL limit. This means that increases greater than 5% or CPI, whichever is less, would require a public hearing for approval. Taxing districts determine the amount of money estimated. An estimate of taxes to be levied in the form of a levy ordinance must be prepared not less than 20 days prior to the adoption of the levy. For the levy cycle on the municipal side, this includes budget prep, budget notices or hearings, budget ordinance approvals, the publishing of the tax levy request, and tax levy certification to the county in December. While on the township assessor side, they determine property values, assessment notices are mailed, board of review hearings, county clerk calculates the tax rate based on levy requests, and the county treasurer mails the tax bills. The county tax extension unit uses the levy to determine the tax amount to be extended against all properties located within the boundaries of the taxing district. So how are the dollars used? Well, this chart shows the percentages of each taxing entity within our district, and 9% of the property tax bill is village revenue. Again, CLC Jawa does not levy property taxes this year, and the largest portions are the school district. This chart shows the assessed value by class for the past 10 years, along with the tax extension over the same period. It does include the library. The slope of the orange line at the top illustrates the total EAV peaking prior to 2009, and then a decline of about 20%, 25% until more recent years. Bless you. What changes the EAV?
Sorry.
Don't mind us.
Right. Market value and income generating capacity in current properties and new construction or annexations adding to the tax rolls. The village has had no annexations of property since 1998, when the sanctuary subdivision became part of the municipality's boundaries. So the total levy for 2019 is $4,449,518 compared to the prior year of $4,343,227. The consumer price index this year was 1.9 and prior year was 2.1. This gives us a potential of $106,290 of new money or revenue. Estimated new construction per the most recent estimates received from the Lake County assessor were at $3.2 million, and the EAV estimate increased 4.24% from the original estimates that I made since the county gave us those numbers. That's where you saw the correction to some of the backup schedules that was provided. As far as the breakup of the levy itself, the property tax rate is determined by the Lake County clerk and appears on the property owner's tax bill. The tax rate's applied to the property's assessed valuation, which determines the amount of money the taxpayer pays to the village and other taxing districts. The village is only one of many taxing bodies. And the breakdown by function. So this chart shows the levy by purpose. It's important to note that the levy does not fully fund these functions. The village relies on multiple sources of revenue, such as sales and other taxes, building permits, other use fees, licenses, and fines to cover the costs to provide these services. It's important to balance revenue sources between taxes, user fees, and other sources to reduce the reliance on any one source. Long-term budget considerations take into account sales tax revenue, state shared revenue sources, grant funds, pension contributions, infrastructure improvements, and capital equipment reserve funding. So what's the impact on a $600,000 home at market value? The rate changes from 0.581 to 0.569 per $100 of EAV for the village portion of the property tax. And the tax bills are estimated at a reduction of about $30 based on the recent EAV estimates received from the county. So a comparison of other market values throughout the community, their EAVs, the town, and the total rates, and the property tax on a typical $600,000 home. And Drew, I'm sorry I didn't highlight Lake Bluff.
Just want to point out, we're on the medal stand, we're not in the
Right.
first place, we do get the silver, though.
We're in the middle.
Let's see, I think we're second?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're second,
Yeah, the only thing lower is Lake Forest.
right.
Is this just the village portion or the entire tax bill?
It's the entire tax bill,
Entire tax bill.
So high.
minus for us the library. So if you
Yeah.
look at our rate, that component was backed out.
Well, it's a reality. Look at Grace Lake.
What's happening in
Could you go
Grace
back to
Lake?
the previous slide where you were showing the impact on the market value, just the previous one? So this may seem counterintuitive, that if we're increasing our request for the extension, why would it go down? And the EAV is correct.
Mhm.
The EAV is going up. And so just one of the things that Bettina and I were talking about is that the county, I don't know, how would you describe it, as an aggressive maybe, or?
They took well, so to backtrack just a step, the county implemented new software this year, and that process included them going out and reassessing properties to ensure that their data was correct. And those reassessments changed our EAV. Corporate EAVs went up considerably, and some homeowners' EAVs went down. And the blend of that together created an increase that we would not have anticipated.
So if you were being conservative, you could say that if you were looking closer to last year's EAV, if, let's say there was property owners contested their reassessments and there was the EAV went down, that number would equate to a marginal increase. If it gets to that point when the taxes roll out, a marginal increase, but it was only like, I think, $5.
Right. If I would have taken the estimates from last year and just moved them forward in a similar fashion, we would have been looking at somewhere between $5 and $9 of an increase.
So from a range, it could be a 30, again, village, looking only at the village slice, could be anywhere from a $30 decrease or slightly more.
Right.
So, just want to make that a range as possible.
Sure.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I was just thinking about that slide where it showed all the different places and for a typical $600,000 home. And just something else to think about is that a $600,000 home in one community compared to another community may look like a very different home. And so that's kind of a little bit why when you look at, for instance, I think it was Grays Lake was the real outlier, because the home prices are lower. To say a $600,000 home would really be quite a significant home for that market. And so that's why, anyway.
It's all relative.
It is, it's all
Right,
right.
and that's actually a very good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or things? Thank you. Okay. With that said, we have an ordinance levying property taxes for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2019, and ending April 30th, 2020, for the village of Lake Bluff. This is first reading approval of the ordinance, which would be a voice vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Markey. Pursuant to state law, on or before the last Tuesday in December, the village must file with the county clerk an ordinance requesting a property tax to be levied on all taxable property within the village. After review of levy estimates and financial projections as presented by staff, the Finance Committee recommends the village levy $3,461,807 for the year 2019, which represents a 2.4 increase over the 2018 property tax extension. The Lake Bluff Public Library has requested a property tax levy of $987,711 for the year 2019, which is a 2.4 increase over the previous year. The total levy amount of $4,449,518 is in compliance with the Property Tax Limitation Act, and the truth in taxation levy is not required for this levy. All right. Did I get a motion already? I did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I did. So we have first, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 13, which is an ordinance abating 2019 property taxes levied for general obligation debt series 2012-2019. and 2019 A bonds for the Village of Lake Bluff. This is first reading, and it will be a roll call vote. The village may I have a motion, by the way?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Grenier, thank you. The village currently has refunding bonds, Series 2012 and 19, and 2019A general obligation bonds outstanding. Pursuant to ordinances 2012-13, 2019-18, and 2019-26, the county clerk is required to extend a property tax levy in an amount sufficient to pay the interest and principal on the bonds. In the past, the village has abated the annual property tax levy. Because the bond ordinances directing extension of the annual property tax levy were filed with the county clerk, an ordinance is required to abate, not levy, the property tax for these bonds. Finance Director determined that the Waterworks Fund has an amount necessary to transfer to the Waterworks Bond and interest account for principal and interest payments on the 2019 general obligation bonds and the 2019A refunding bonds. The 2012 refunding bond principal interest payments will be paid by general fund revenues. Any comments or questions regarding this? All righty, roll call, please. And this is first reading.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
We now have an ordinance amending Chapter 10 of the Lake Bluff zoning regulations, which is sign regulations for the L1 and L2 light industry zoning districts. The first reading, which will be a voice vote. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Markey. Over the course of the summer, the Architectural Board reviewed drafted revisions to the village's sign code with the assistance of Ms. Arista Stranges of Camarillo, local planning consultant. The revisions modernize the L1 and L2 zoning districts and would allow, among other changes, each tenant to have one or more signs in some situations, instead of limiting signs to a maximum number of one sign per lot. Property owners to submit and receive approval for a master sign plan, which would eliminate the need to return to the Architectural Board of Review for a new approval for every tenant sign change. Larger wall-mounted address signs based on the linear frontage of each tenant. At its September 3rd meeting, the Architectural Board of Review held a public hearing to review a complete draft of its proposed revisions, including notice to effective building owners. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Architectural Board of Review unanimously adopted adoption of the amendments. At its November 20th, 2019 meeting, the Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals opened a public hearing to review the draft ordinance recommended by the Architectural Board of Review. At the conclusion of the meeting, the PCZBA unanimously recommended the Village Board adopt the amendments. Any questions or concerns regarding these changes?
Just want to thank you for doing it, getting this done. I'm sure it was a lot of work, but this will avoid a lot of time wasted going
Yeah, I
forward.
think it's supposed to streamline, and so they don't, every time there's a small variance, doesn't have to just.
We don't have to get together and approve it.
Correct.
Which we invariably do.
All righty. Any other thing? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are now going to have a trustees report. Do we have any trustees reports?
No report.
Reports. All righty, we are now going to go into executive session for the purpose of, threatened litigation and collective bargaining. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
All right, so moved by Ms. Markey, second by Mr. Meyer. Roll
Ankerman,
call.
Meyer.
Forgive me, I'm doing double duty.
I know. We'll hold up.
Okay. Mr. Meyer.
Aye.
Mr. Markey. Mrs. Markey. I'm sorry, hold on. Strike that. Mr. Meyer, yes, okay. Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Thank you, apologies.
All right.
Jay's not here, I know. Right.
He's a no.
Okay, all right.
It's tough.
We'll get into that.
7:45.
Okay.
Sure.